Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. It's the only backpacking show where the hosts exclusively date people who work in immigration. I'm Alun and I'm here with the ever leukocytotic Adam.
What in the world does leukocytotic mean?
Good question, Adam. Moving swiftly on. Let's get into the show.
It's nice to see you again, mate. What's the week been like? Because you're still over in Tokyo teaching music over there. I'm still in the Central Otago, South Island, New Zealand. It is the last day of the harvest tomorrow. My back is in bits. I can't believe I'm still here, to be honest with you. But I'm very glad to be here talking to you in front of this wonderful audience.
I can't believe you're still here either. I didn't think after the performance that you put in last week in your little bobble hat, all ill and maladied up, that you would make it to this week. So it is a surprise and a welcome surprise to see you. That is what leukocytotic means. It means someone with a high white blood cell count, which I can only assume that you had throughout the week last week. And that is why your immune system has bolstered and that you're with us here today.
Fantastic. That's going straight into the vocabulary. I don't know how many white blood cells I'm going to have after today. I mean, white blood cells are the ones that you get when you are sick then?
They increase when you're sick. So
The ones that you get. Like trading them like Pokemon cards.
Yeah, you'd have had leukocytosis.
I'm going to sound so stupid. Good red blood cells are good. Red blood cells, I'm sporting the red jumper, and white blood cells.
Red blood cells you get if you've got very oxygenated blood, or maybe you're a bit dehydrated.
Well, like I said, mate, really big day tomorrow. It's the last day of picking, and then we've got a big harvest party. The team, the winery staff, everyone involved, we're all going to have a big slap-up meal. And yeah, we're going to go out picking in the morning, and then hopefully a big knees up in the afternoon. And for that reason, I want to make sure that I'm fighting fit, I have a good night's sleep, and I don't get sick. And I'm just peering down.
No way, so you're going to be picking grapes, eating and drinking. That's rare for you, isn't it?
If there's three, that's a trifecta. I try every single one of my days in the rest of my life. I want it to involve those things, which is very difficult. I'm going to have to move around a lot, but luckily I've got a travel podcast, haven't I? Now, let me just introduce you to this thing on the floor. So if you're not watching the video, then you may as well.
It's probably going to be a grape, some food or some alcohol.
Knowing Adam. I basically picked this thing up from the supermarket earlier. I think I was drawn to it because you're in Japan. And it's called crunchy chicken on sushi rice. And it's...
it is some food.
Yeah,
okay.
it's some food in a little plastic thing. You know, sometimes supermarkets, they have just a little deli counter. And they're basically packing up all the shit that no one bought throughout the day. And then they reduce to clear or whatever it is, sell it off for peanuts. Yeah. And I bought this earlier thinking I'm recording with Alan tonight. He's in Japan. Why not try some crunchy chicken on sushi rice? The Japanese love that. And I got like 3 mouthfuls into it before the recording and then had a panic attack that it was going to give me salmonella. So I only ate 3 mouthfuls. I thought if I'm going to be sick tomorrow, I'll be really, really angry because it's like the one day that we've all been waiting for the last month. So I just popped it on the floor.
Why are we worried about salmonella? Because you've left it unrefrigerated for a while.
Well, I bought it and it wasn't looking sort of in the best shape. And then, yeah, I just left it out for a couple of hours while I did some errands and then came home and had a shower. And that was it, mate. I just got a little bit worried that, you know, I probably would have been fine, but I cannot risk getting ill tomorrow because it's such a massive day. And I've been looking forward to it for a very long time. So.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up little deli counter katsu chicken style stuff because it's a little item I've been working on. It's called Alan's Observations About Japan So Far. That is the theme music. A lot of my work on the item has been into the content as opposed to the jingle, Adam. So one of my observations about Japan so far is that it does something to me which I'm not sure that I like. And I'd be nervous about telling you about it, but your presentation of that little crunchy chickens made me feel boldened to tell you about it. You love food and going out for lovely meals and exploring. So I know when I'm in Japan, your voice is echoing in my head saying every meal is an opportunity to have the best meal of your life. I think of that a lot. Much like you imagine me throughout your life telling you to do certain things. I know because you've told me. I imagine you in my head when it comes to food. And
classic.
And I always think that. But oftentimes, because I'm working here, because I'm dressed in a polo shirt, because I'm going about my life, I find myself frequenting the convenience stores an alarming amount. I even have ingredients to cook for myself.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll get back from work and there's good food in those convenience stores. It's so easy just to nip down the road to 7-Eleven, get a pre-packed rice and chicken protein sort of pack for just a few £100, bring it back, heat it up, and it's a good meal for a decent price. I've been going to the convenience stores at least twice a day, Adam.
Alan, you're talking to the right guy, mate, because I know I can hear in your voice you're a little bit down about it. You feel sort of guilty. But the name's in the title. They are convenience stores. The reason you go to them so often is because they are so convenient. And I like almost the ritual of going to. I quite like interacting and walking around the store. And I deliberately only buy one or two things at a time so that I eat them, in the near future, and then I have to go to another one in order to get something else. I don't bulk buy in a convenience store because I quite like going to them. So I don't think that's an issue, mate. I tend to go to convenience stores like maybe 5 times a day when I'm in Japan.
I find that interesting because you would balk at somebody going to in almost any other country. Like if we were in India and someone said, "Oh, I've actually not been eating the Indian food. I've just been going to the 7-Eleven and getting sort of a sandwich," you would find that horrendous.
But it's not the same, is it?
But you sort of have a pass. What's different about it?
The fact that convenience stores or konbini are a really important part of everyday Japanese life. They're very iconic in Japan and associated with it.
Okay, so in many ways, going to a konbini in Japan is the same as going to a chai guy in India. It's just like they're a part of the cultural furniture.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not that chai sellers are furniture guys. God, everyone's so sensitive these days.
If you go to Japan and you don't go to a convenience store, I would say that you've missed something. I do think that it's. I walk around for hours and hours and hours, whether it's Tokyo, Kyoto, or anywhere else in Japan, and sometimes you need to just duck in for a little onigiri, one of those little rice balls or whatever. So
you can't say that anymore, but they are the only place in Japan where you can find like refuse as well. They don't have bins on the streets, so often you'll have to duck into a 7-Eleven to actually just throw away trash. And sometimes I'm doing a thing where I'm like working, but I turn up to work an hour early and go and sit and plan my lesson in a convenience store, or I'll like finish work and then go and sit in a convenience store and have a little bite to eat before I maybe go climbing with one of my colleagues. So it's very exciting stuff.
It is. I like them a lot. Have you got a favourite yet? Because I imagine let's say you're walking from the train station to work, even if you've only got a walk of a few minutes, you probably walk past 3 or 4.
There's the big 3, mate. There's 7-Eleven, there's Family Mart and Lawson. Those are the 3. Of those 3 convenience stores, I would say one is absolutely the superior. I think there's one that wins hands down. Then I have a second best and a third best. I'm going to put those 3 in a ranking now in my mind. Do you want to, should we say them at the same time? How do you want to do it?
So what are we sort of talking about in terms of the criteria?
Preference, overall vibe and preference. Well, we can discuss it, mate. So 3, 2, 1. Number 1 for me is 3, 2, 1, Lawson.
Yeah.
Right. The reason is the food is superior.
Right.
There's often free Wi-Fi in the Lawsons. It's called Lawson's Free Wi-Fi. The staff are sexy as hell.
And yeah, it's really important, isn't it?
And I just like it in there. I think it's the best food, actually. I think it's got the best food of any convenience store.
Have you had the fried chicken in there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a Famichiki, which is obviously the Family Mart fried chicken, which is pretty famous, but some people prefer the 7-Eleven. I'm not sure anyone's preferring the Lawsons. So that's why I asked, mate. We've got to be a bit more specific. And because you can do so many things in a convenience store, I think you can even deposit money and send your post and all that, print things, can't you? It's a...
Yeah, you can go on a date in there as well. It's number 2 for me. 3, 2, 1. 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. This is interesting. Okay, a 7-Eleven for me is your middle tier. They do a great egg sandwich.
Yeah, of course.
And the coffee's not so bad either.
I think
The coffee they do is really good convenience store coffee.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with that, to be honest with you. I don't think that Family Mart is by far the worst, though. I don't mind.
Family Mart is the lowest of those top three, though.
Yeah, there's also, have you seen the other Lawson's one? There's like a Lawson's natural sort of organic type green thing. It's got a different banner at the top. I'm, racking my brains out now. We'll go to one when I'm over in Tokyo, and I'll say this is the S tier.
I've not seen that. That's better than. That's the best one, is it? Lawson's Organic?
Well, I don't even know if it's organic. It just seems to have sort of more natural products, whether that be kombucha or something like that. It's, slightly better produce. But it's good food and convenience store, isn't it? If you just want a quick snack, mate, I've got absolutely no qualms with you going to these things.
I mean, really as well, the food is healthy enough, because the worst thing about the food is that it's microwavable, and I think that microwaving plastic, getting microplastics in the food is probably bad. But I just circumvent that. I bring it home, put it in a bowl, microwave the ceramic bowl, and I'm getting all the benefits of a lovely healthy Lawson's meal without any of the microplastics. So what can touch me, really?
Yeah, I mean, would you think you would have picked that up off the shelf, the crunchy chicken on sushi rice?
No, I'm getting like rice, vegetables, and meat, maybe chicken.
Have you tried the fish? Have you tried the fish in convenience stores? Actually, all right.
Do you know what I've got into, mate? The dried octopus.
A dried octopus what? Or is it like chips, like crisps?
Mate, there's no other adjectives involved or nouns or anything. It's just dried octopus. I know you might want to add something to it like, oh, is it a dried octopus skewer? Is it a dried octopus chunk? You don't get any more information on the packet, mate. On the faith of just those two words alone, you've got to pick that up and take it to the counter. That might be why you've never had it, because you're a man that's constantly seeking affirmation from a subsidiary adjective or noun. Me, I see dried octopus, and that's enough information. It's already gone through the checkout. It's back home.
Does it at least have the word authentic on it?
No other words, mate. It's got a picture of an octopus baking under the sun.
But what do they taste like? Describe them to us. Doesn't have to be a rice for breakfast. Jesus, Double's got that much time.
It tastes as if someone, through some sort of process, let's call it evaporation, has removed every molecule of water from the flesh of a cephalopod.
So it's like concentrated octopus flavour.
Yeah, and it's incredibly chewy, and just one tentacle takes 15 minutes to eat.
Harking back to that, that thing I had in Korea. Did you ever eat that, by the way? The live tentacle thing in Korea?
No, I never had it, no.
Do you think you would have done? Or you only eat dried tentacles?
Yeah, if you'd told me, if you'd given me a recommendation for it, I would have, yeah.
No, we definitely spoke about that. We spoke about it on the show as well. Do you not go back and listen to old episodes in your own time?
No, I find one of the hosts vaguely intolerable.
If you've never had this thing, I mean, I probably should just get the name up of the dish. I think it's called saganaki or something like that.
Yeah, you can't say that anymore. But the dried octopus is really good. It's become a favourite because I like foods that take a long time to consume. So it is a load off my mind, mate, because I have been worried. Every time I've gone into a 7-Eleven or a Lawson's or indeed a Family Mart, I've thought Adam would want me to go to a little ramen bar on the side or a izakaya or something. So I've been feeling a little bit of guilt, but they are simply more convenient.
They are. And you can save all your pennies, mate, for the moment that we get over there together and we'll go out and eat and drink a few times a day. You got a bit of time in the morning, bit of time in the afternoon, or do I just sort of organise some stuff for the evenings? How's that going to work?
You've got it. That's what it's got to be, mate, because I'm bang slap in the middle of the day working in the employ of someone else. And that's one of my other observations about Japan. It's that being employed here...
Nailed the theme music.
requires a significant burden of administration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the way it's done is via a drip feeding process, which has left me... It's knocked me for six, quite frankly, to use a beloved cricket expression. You know that here on Anthropology Podcast, we love the Mumbai Indians and we love cricket. And one thing we like to say is that's really knocked me for six.
Oh, nice callback. Yeah, a nice reference there.
Thanks. So basically what's happened is I've entered into this job and they've gone, oh, it's amazing. Could you send us a picture of your residency card. So, okay, I've got a residency card. I've gone to the registration address. So now I can send them a picture of the back of my residency card, which has my address on. Then they're like, oh, could you send me a full medical report?
Oh.
Okay, so I've got to go to the doctors. I go to the doctors. I get a chest x-ray. I get blood work done. I have to urinate into a little cup, have that measured. They have to do an echocardiogram where they're getting a sense of what my heart's doing. They got to check my eyes.
Yeah. Oh, good luck. Fucking hell.
All that sort of stuff, mate. I'm doing all that. I'm in there for hours. They're measuring every aspect of my being. It turns out I'm a big fat prick with bad eyes.
Did you, when they said a full medical report, is that like a level of service? The doctor knew what you were talking about. You were like, look, I've just started work. My employer's asked me for a full medical.
My employer sent me a sample form that I then had to show the doctor, like, this is what I want.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be height, weight, is this person dying of anything? But I didn't realize they were going to be like, you need to... This is the tips they gave me. The doctor said, and I'm quoting them in perfect Japanese here, but then I'm translating it. So just know that when I'm telling you this, it's going through several layers of translation. He said, you're overall healthy.
Perfect.
You seem to be a little dehydrated. You should try and relax more, and you've got a crooked spine.
I feel like the last two are linked, aren't they?
Well, it's difficult to know.
Try and relax more, and you've got a crooked spine. Maybe you should relax less.
Yeah, basically, from my urine, they determined that I was dehydrated, which in fact I was, because I just woke up and had to rush to the medical clinic before I started work. And then, as for I think I was just... Do you have that thing where a doctor's taking your blood pressure and pulse, and you get nervous about whether the result's going to be good, so your blood pressure and pulse go up very slightly?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's universal, isn't it? Well, maybe some people just don't care.
I could feel it happening. I was like all chilled. I was like, boom, 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 boom. And then the nurse comes out. It's time to take your blood pressure. She puts on the scanner. She drops her stethoscope. One moment, and then I can feel it as the blood pressure coil goes on me. I'm like boom, 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 and she's like, konnichiwa, you seem stressed out as fuckery. And then
could you see the dial going up?
Yeah, I could see the dial going up. Yeah, exactly. And then he sent me in for a chest x-ray. And it turns out, based on one image, he's like, your spine's a little bit crooked. But here's the clincher. I don't think I was standing straight when he did that x-ray. I was looking at something over there. I was looking back at the nurse. She dropped her stethoscope again.
Oh, and you were bent over double to try and hide the... No, so your spine is...
Everyone who has Nurse Mayang Lee seems to have scoliosis. Since we hired her, rates of scoliosis in the Koto region of Japan have gone through the roof. And the blood pressure readings aren't too hot either.
Oh, dear, oh, dear. So you had to present these then back to your employer. And you mentioned fat. You're not fat. We can see you're not fat.
I just put them in someone's, would you call it a cubby hole or maybe even a pigeonhole, depending on whether you're more into aviation or furniture. I just threw the medical certificate in someone's hole and I'm just letting them deal with it.
But you weren't happy with the results? Because I know they're pretty harsh. I mean, you do have to report back to your employer. And aren't there some sort of regulations that could come in if you get a little slap on the wrist if you're not as healthy as you could be?
No, I'm happy to say that I passed the medical test for employment purposes. And it's an amazing thing in Japan. If you turn out to be like, if basically your medical result comes back and it turns out that you're fat, which is a terrible surprise to some people. A lot of people go their whole life not realizing, and then their result comes back and it just goes, you are obese. And then they look down and they go, oh my God. And if that does happen, your employer is obligated to like subsidize some like gym memberships or something like that. So that's quite a good little bit of social healthcare. So I was relieved to discover that I wasn't obese. Thank God, because if I had been, I don't know what I would have done.
You'd have only gone to the convenience store once a day.
Yeah, can you imagine? It would have been awful. So then I submit my medical certificate, and then they're like, oh, you need a Gemino, which is, again, you've got to go to an office and now get a piece of certificate that proves that you are, in fact, living at the place that's on the back of your residency card, which you were given because you went to the registry office and registered your address.
I'm already confused. Hang on, what's going on here?
So I've gone to the office, I've registered my address, I've shown my employer the registered address, but they now need a certificate to prove that my address is in fact the address that I proved that I registered, but in just certificate form.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a waste of time.
No, it's certainly not. So I'll be doing that post haste.
When are you going to be out in the clear then? When are you going to just be able to just do your job and not have to worry about all of these different forms and bureaucracy? And
Before retirement age, I'll have finished all the onboarding processes.
can you see a long-term future in Japan? And by that, I mean at least the remainder of your visa so far.
That's what I will say, Adam. Like, honestly, I'm not a negative guy, and I never... So like, I know it sounds negative when I talk this way, but in actual fact, I think there's so much to love about Japan. Like, obviously, we talked a lot about the food. I went up to a stand-up comedy night in Tokyo, and it was so much fun. It was amazing. I went to a Shinto shrine, and it was so beautiful, and I was learning about kami and animism, and I think it's like so beautiful. The bureaucracy is crazy to me. The amount of forms and signs that need to be done to like rent an apartment or like get a bus card or get a phone number or a bank account, or indeed like medical certificates and residency addresses and stuff like that. Like, that stuff gets me down, man.
Yeah. Is it maybe worth mentioning to anyone who's listening to this who's eyeing up a life in Japan? Like, just be prepared. I mean, it is a slog. It's something you should definitely be prepared for, and if it feels, like a lot, then you're in the right place, sort of thing.
Because like, you love Japan, you consider yourself a Japanophile, although you shouldn't say that anymore. But it's but you've obviously never had to deal with that bureaucracy because you've always just been here briefly, like on holiday. Little did you know that if for a moment, even for a brief lapse in judgment, you started living in Japan as opposed to being on holiday there, there'd be thousands of people lined up in suits ready to hand you a different form. Sir, are you living here? No, I'm holiday. Are you? Are you sure you're not living in here just briefly?
Yeah, we've seen the shape of your spine.
Yeah.
No, I did go to Japan was it the first time? It was either the first or second, and that was mid-COVID as well. And even that was, it was at the very beginning of COVID. I think it was February 2020. And that was maybe not a taste of what you're going through, but certainly I could see the signs that it was probably less efficient in some ways than people would imagine.
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? Because it's such an efficient country in every way. But the reason it works efficiently on this level is because all the bureaucracy is like handed down just to the layman. Like, they know everything about me. Like, they literally know the density of my piss. Like, it's on record.
There must be pretty wide margins, though, surely. What do they think? You're passing past a convenience store and picking up a large bottle of Pocari Sweat? That's what you should get. Lots of electrolytes. My favourite drink, apart from wine.
I should have done that before I went to the medical exam, it turned out. But yeah, so there's an awful lot of information about everyone all the time.
Yeah, I wonder actually whether you've noticed this. I know you've only been in Japan for a relatively short amount of time and only working for even less. But I have heard through some other very talented and fantastic YouTubers that I follow who live in Japan that sometimes at work you are almost better off staying late and just looking like you're working, just to try and make up the time. Even if you've got nothing to do, just being present at work is almost expected. And sort of everyone kind of does it. Even if the work's dried up or you finish your tasks for the day, if you were to leave early or even on time, it's kind of frowned upon. Have you felt anything like that?
No, Adam, because in the interests of this being in a public forum, I actually don't mind all the bureaucracy when it pertains to my employer, and I would never be seen to work if I wasn't actually working. So two things there. I think it's totally fine. I was actually very happy to submit the medical form. I'm just joking on a show for fun. And also, when I'm at work, I'm actually working more than 100% as hard as it's possible to work. So if anything,
more than 100%.
If you pay me an hourly wage, you're getting a 50% discount.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. I don't suppose anyone at your business listens to the show, do they, mate?
I'm working for 7-Eleven, the second best convenience store in all of Japan. Adam, tell us a little bit about you, mate. You've got 3 minutes to tell us what's going on in your world.
A little update from Adam. I am on the brink of selling my van. You'll be pleased to know. Some people listening to this will be like, "What? How have you not even? Why have you still got that thing? You said like 2 months ago you were going to sell it."
The reason you have is because every time someone tried to buy it from you, you kept on giving them the addresses of a bunch of beaches. I remember.
No, so I've driven it all the way down to the middle of the South Island, of course. I've been kind of half living in it, half living in this cabin. I've got a heater in my cabin now, so that's great. That was a very new addition, even though I'm going to be leaving in a week or two.
What's her name?
Of the heater?
Sorry, silly joke. Scratch that joke from the record.
And I've been picking for the last couple of weeks. I'm really enjoying it. We've got that big meal that I was talking about. I don't know what I'm going to do afterwards. So, watch this space, guys. Watch this space, Alun. Maybe I'll be sending you a couple of messages thinking about ideas, because if I want to be with you at the end of May, sort of early June, that gives me about 3 weeks to go and have some fun.
I've been greasing the proverbial wheel of your arrival with my landlord.
Oh, really? Okay, how's that going?
I see. This is when I say I've been greasing the proverbial wheel. There's a series of complaints that I have about this room that I was withholding because I thought it seemed a bit much. I've got them in quickly now so that there'll be like a few weeks of space before I say, "Can I have my friend over for multiple weeks?"
Yeah, I like the way you do this, because this is quite similar to where you were living in Siargao. And you were living in the Airbnb, and you'd basically, the coffee machine wasn't working, and something else was broken as well, wasn't it? You didn't want to just bombard your landlord with loads of things to fix, so you spaced them out.
Yeah, I'd broken 3 things, and I waited. Yeah.
So I appreciate that, mate. I'm really looking forward to it. Maybe I'm gonna refrain from eating any Japanese or East Asian food, certainly ones that have been bought from supermarkets, so that I can save up all my pennies, squirrel my money away, and then come and we'll go and have a ball, and I'll take you out and all that sort of stuff.
I'm excited, mate. Speaking of consuming forbidden food which you shouldn't really put in your mouth, we're about to go now to the Lost and Found section, and listeners of this show know that exists only and exclusively on Patreon. We teased in last week's Patreon that we were going to tell a story on this week's Patreon. It is one of the most defining anecdotes of mine and Adam's friendship. It's at the time, and I'm not willing to say whether this is still the case, but at the time it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And we experienced it together. It was one of the things that glued us together as friends. It was very, very funny, and we're going to tell it in this episode's Patreon section. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description, in the show notes, that says Patreon. Go sign up. For as little as the cost of a box of tissues, you can get access to the Lost and Found section. And it fits seamlessly into your podcast. If you listen to the podcast on Spotify, you can still just listen on Spotify every week. It will just come out and you'll just have the Patreon version. So it's not even going to disrupt your regular scheduled viewing or programming, okay? So just do it for a little bit of money, and then you can hear the story. It's called
Peanut Butter. That's it. And if that doesn't tick you over into the Patreon section, we don't know what will. But go and join us over there, guys. Thanks ever so much for listening for another week. Hope you have an amazing time, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah, with that, we'll bid you adieu.
Ciao.